Just dandy. I'm getting the stream going as we talk here. We are live, and yeah, everything's good. Oh, we got us a David today. Woohoo!
Heck yeah. And Basan is here too. Good morning, guys. David, Basan, how you guys doing this?
Hey, good morning. Just give me a second to switch the speaker here, please.
I was actually trying to remember how I unmute myself on this thing. Very well practiced.
A little bit rusty, huh?
Basically.
It happens. How was your week?
My week? It's interesting. Yeah. Yep. That's it.
We can leave it right there then.
Yeah.
It was interesting. That's all I got.
It's interesting. It's funny, because just the other day I was talking to you like how I like kind of reprioritized my life and like dumped a bunch of responsibilities that I had committed to, but also like wasn't really enjoying anymore. But then like I do stuff like, okay, I just shed some stuff off my plate because I have too much. But then, we're starting another T-ball season and they're like, hey, would you mind coaching? I'm like, sure, why not? Let me take on something else and jump right back into the fold. But at least it's hanging out with my kid and doing something that's cool.
That sounds familiar. That sounds very familiar. Yeah. I thought I cleared everything off. Nope, let me fill it all back up again, just one thing at a time, so it doesn't seem like I'm overextending myself until I'm so tired.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you now.
Yeah, I'm in the car. I just had to fix the speaker thing. Yeah. How's everyone doing? I miss you guys. It's still strange to have the Monday Friday thing.
It is. It's weird. It feels like a vacation, and then but like you keep expecting to go back to normal, only it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, guess what I did yesterday? I finally took on the self-portrait challenge.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wasn't there last Friday when you spoke about that subject, but I did listen to the replay, and it was totally inspired by the conversation. Honestly, it was probably one of the best conversations I've heard. And I was totally inspired, and I actually did it yesterday. I don't know where it's gonna go. I don't know how it'll appear, but at least I had a theme. I went through it, and I'm gonna go with it. So we'll see what happens.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to see it. I'm not doing mine till this coming week because we're gonna go to Carlsbad Cavern for the weekend. But yeah, I can't wait to see everybody's work. I'm super excited about it. I want to make sure I say good morning to Jen and Tara, Bobby and Erica. Thanks everybody for joining us this morning. We had probably better officially get started, so I will say good morning, everybody, and welcome to Morning Walk with the Artist Forge, where we learn to think like artists. My name is Nicole York. I will be your host, and I will be joined by the ever lovely and talented Matt Stagliano, David Parrish, and Bassam Saba as your co-hosts today. We hope you've had an amazing and artistic week so far, and we're excited to get into the conversation. Remember, on Mondays, we've been trying to focus on mindset, thinking like an artist, and then Fridays we're looking towards something that's a little bit more practical. And so today I actually want to talk about something I have been working my way through, and I know we've chatted a little bit about this in the past, but I thought it might be a really fantastic opportunity to expand this topic some. And I think David also is probably going to have some really great insight here. But what I want to talk about is creating more revenue streams from things that you're already doing, from clients that you already have, all of that good stuff. Because, we have seen what it looks like as artists and freelancers to kind of have our ability to earn an income fall off the edge of the map a little bit when COVID hit, and many of us as photographers we were stuck inside just like everybody else, and that ability to go and work with people was taken away from us by circumstances we couldn't control. And depending on what the economy looks like and what our current market looks like, there are many markets that are being slowly whittled away by other things like CGI, or they're just a change in taste, and so we're not getting booked as often. Things are just going to change in the market that we work in our particular genre, and the broader circumstances that we can't control. So how do we begin generating additional revenue streams, particularly from the people who already follow us and enjoy our work? How do we do that? How do we think about that? How do we plan for that? How do we structure those things? And I think, of course, first it starts from just having that intention and looking at what you're already doing and asking yourself a lot of questions. But then there's a lot of practical things that follow that as well, in how you set things up and what you choose to do. And there are a few things I have been trying that I am definitely going to talk about, but I would love to hear from Matt, from David, from Bassam. Is this something that you have thought about from your perspective? And I know, both Matt and Bassam have a couple of separate businesses entwined within their business. And so that'll be an interesting thing to hear about, because Bassam doing business coaching, and then Matt also having a couple of different businesses that aren't related to his portraiture. So I want you guys to be definitely thinking about that as we have this conversation. But yeah, how do you create new revenue streams without doing what David was mentioning at the very beginning, without overwhelming yourself or spreading yourself so thin that you no longer can focus on your sole business to have it remain successful? Matt, I know you and I were kind of having this conversation earlier this week, and I thought it would be a great one to bring along, super practical, especially when we think about the fact that, like I said at the beginning of the show, there are a lot of circumstances that could pop up that affect our ability to earn an income from our mainstream. Dry seasons, a lot of us have seasonal work, wedding photographers, certain times of year when that's really going to pick up, other times when it's going to slow down. So what do you think, guys? What are some things that we might consider or look at if we think having additional revenue streams is going to be important or beneficial for us?
I think there are very few artists, at least in the general population, right? There's always cream that rises to the top, but I think very few artists are sitting back and saying, I make plenty of money from my art. I don't need to diversify. I don't need any more revenue. I am good with the way that I am. I think anybody that's in business of art tends to always be looking for more revenue streams, always ways to fill the coffers a little bit more. I know for me, I treat everything kind of like I treat the stock market, where you've got to diversify and you've got to be in it for the long haul, right? A lot of the revenue streams that seem like quick fixes normally aren't. There's a lot of work that goes into them. And before they start producing anything of merit, there's just time that has to go by for people to know what it is, for word to get out there. So for me, whenever I feel like there's an opportunity to create something new, I find a gap in the market or a niche or an opportunity, I look at it and I say, all right, well, is that something that I can fill? Because if not me, who else, right? If I have the ability to do it, why not give it a chance and see if it will create something for me? That's why I have an entire business based around making bracelets that say nasty things on them, because there's a market for it and people will buy that. Is it a huge revenue stream? No. Why? Because I focus solely and primarily on Stone Tree to bring me the majority of my income. Now, I have the Cyanide Bunker, which is the jewelry business that runs on the side. It's relatively independent, but it is out there. There's my other company, which is the outdoor industry, more commercial stuff. That brings me a certain amount of revenue per year. Not a huge amount, but it is something that allows me to work when I'm not doing portraits. I can do video editing or video shooting or writing or editorial stuff for magazines. I have that stream. There's mentoring and education and speaking. I'm working on content creation and course creation. All of this, and as well as other digital products, all of that to make up for the time where I might not have someone in the studio. I've got to be thinking, if I have a certain lifestyle that I want to live, there's a certain number that I have to make per year. How do I do that? If one stream isn't creating that for me wholly and completely, where can I fill in without, like you said, overwhelm? I think there's a myth that you won't get overwhelmed. It's going to be an insane amount of work trying to add something else in. However, like we've talked about for the past year and a half, if you have the right workflow and processes in place, the approach to it that is relatively methodical, and you're not just throwing shit at a wall, then eventually that stream is going to bring you income. There's a lot of things that will peak over trending, like it'll be a trending peak. Some things will be in it for the long term. I think you have to ask yourself, how much am I willing to put into this new business? How much of my time am I willing to sacrifice? Is it going to take the balance away from my life? Is it going to take away from my primary revenue stream? And if the answers that you keep coming back to are, one, that no, it's not going to completely overwhelm you; two, that there's an opportunity to make this; and three, that you have the capability to do it, why not do it? Why not give yourself the opportunity to see what happens? And like we've talked about a lot, if you fail, it's nothing but experience and learning. So, when first thinking about creating alternate revenue streams, right? Whether that's dealing in NFTs and crypto, or whether it's welding, table legs, it doesn't matter. I think as long as your approach to it is, there's an opportunity here for me, then you will invest as much time as you feel passionate about. For the content creation, for me, for example, I know it will be a great source of passive income at some point. I just need to be able to create it all, polish it all up, get it out there. From that point, it's a waiting game and a marketing game. So, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. I think a lot of people just change their attention and think, oh, I'm just going to start this now. Well, if you're going to do anything, do it right. Spend the time to think through how you're going to be presenting that product, who the people are that you're going to be presenting it to, what marketing do you need to do, where are those people so that you can get the customers that you need. How much overhead is there, right? Is it taking away from your primary business? There's a lot to think about, but it shouldn't be daunting. It should be exciting. And I think if you're not excited about it, then that's the indicator that maybe it's not the revenue stream for you. So I'm going to leave it there. There's a lot to talk about here, but I love this topic.
Yeah, I just wanted to leave that open for a second in case David or Bassam had anything they wanted to maybe respond to, or any thoughts on what you had to say so far.
Sure.
I mean, the biggest thing for me is I would echo Matt's kind of quick nugget, but I do think of business a lot like the stock market. You have to diversify, you have to have safety nets, but also safety nets can become distractions. Anytime you're getting into something else, I look at it sort of like college, right? Like when you're trying out that fine arts class, you're trying out that psychology class, and then suddenly you're like, wow, that's really cool. And you find yourself in a completely different arena, which is fine. But I do think you have to be aware of some of those things. If you start to devote too much attention or too much time to something, it can become your thing, which is again completely fine. We're all free to make the choices that we want, that's best for us and best for our life and best for our family and best for our business. But ultimately, everything that we do that takes away from our primary thing can become a job within itself, and then a distraction, and then you're kind of back where I started with, you're overloading your plate and having issues there. But that's, I think, just a minor warning of whatever you devote the most amount of time to is going to be the thing that probably is most successful as well. Now, as photographers, I do think that there's plenty of things that we can do to insulate ourselves, including running outside businesses and investments. But there's a lot of things I think that people don't tend to think about and or scare the piss out of them, so they don't want to do it. But like an example is like my studio, right? My studio has always been a co-opt studio almost since the beginning. When I quickly realized I didn't have, it's a building that I'm not going to be in every single day. And if I'm not going to be in there every single day using it to make money, then what can I do to turn it into something that at least isn't going to cost me money? And so, like, my solution to that was, well, if I'm not going to be in there every single day, I need to start getting some studio partners or some co op people who are going to help me pay for that space. Because if you're paying for it every single week, which arguably you are, and but you're only in there 2 days a week actually doing a shoot that's making you money, then the rest of that time it can be rented out to somebody else who's using it to make you money. That was always my position. Again, I don't think the majority of photographers are in their studio every single day doing a shoot, and if you're not, then that's a prime example of something you can use to turn a profit in another way, or at least cover your costs, so you're reducing an expense that's on your line items.
Yeah, I think there's two things that both you and Matt have said so far that I think it's really important just to repeat one more time. And the first is that um, how can we look at the assets we have and take advantage of those in additional ways so that they increase a revenue stream without creating more work for ourselves? And yes, renting out your studio does require a little bit from you, like, you need to get somebody in there and you have to be able to process their payments. And so there's some additional structures that need to go in place in order to do that. But for many of us, there probably are already things that we do that we're not necessarily looking at as ways to make additional income. For example, you may be surprised how many people would be interested to know how you cull, edit, organize your images. You have a really great system that you're already doing, and you happen to record yourself going through that process, explaining what you do, and then that goes up for $5 for photographers on your website. Or maybe at that point, if you have enough of those workflow things that you can record, all of a sudden, maybe now you have a subscription or member area on your website that people can sign up for and go and see what new pieces of education you are sharing with them every day or every week, or maybe once a month or whatever. It's up to you to decide. But I think first it's important for us to recognize the importance of having multiple income streams, like you mentioned, David, whether that is through investments or through side hustles or whatever it is that we're doing. But second, that there is a lot we can do with what we already have. And if we can think our way through those and then build structures to support those things so that we're not wearing ourselves out, which kind of touches on Matt's point, like the overwhelm, I think, is felt the most when something hasn't been structured in such a way that we're having to pull our attention back and forth between multiple things. When it has its time and place, this is something I do on Thursdays at 4. All of the sudden, that overwhelm can make us not want to be able to do anything or not do any of it well enough that it's actually succeeding. So understanding where it's prioritized and its level of importance, where it goes, what time it's done, making sure we have the structures in place to support those things, that I think goes a really long way towards making another project or a side income or a secondary stream of income viable. Bassam, how about you? Do you have any thoughts? And as we get over there, Jen is saying, like screen recording my flow. Also, any suggestions for stock photography sites? I have a lot of work I have been told should be stock photography, but not sure where to start. And I think those are two really fantastic examples. Absolutely record your flow. record how you edit, record how you categorize, catalog, store your images, how you back them up. Even if you have the ability, a lot of folks will record their personal work. So if you have somebody coming in to shoot with, set up a camera in the corner, record that process, do a voiceover where you talk about what you were doing and what your thought process was and why you moved a light. All of a sudden, you have a really simple piece of content that another photographer might be able to learn from. As far as stock photography sites, there are many. Stock photography sites like Archangel are categorized and chosen more for their artistic merits, so that you're not usually going to find things like a smiling woman in a pharmacy. You're going to find a lot of things that are suitable for book covers, but sites like Adobe Stock or iStock, those ones people tend to use quite a lot. So if anybody has any other suggestions, feel free to leave those in the chat or in the Facebook group. But those are a couple of different things I can think of right off the bat. If anybody has any other answers for Jen, feel free to pop in there. But Bassam, definitely want to hear what you think about the topic this morning.
Yeah. In my case, it's less about diversifying what I have in place in terms of revenue streams. It's more about which revenue stream gives me the most enjoyment, the most joy, and what does it take for me to actually increase the proportion of that to a point where it's the majority of my income is coming from that revenue stream, right? So right now I have 4 revenue streams. One of them, and it's the major one of them, is my pension plan, which I kind of have that in the background, sometimes holding me back, sometimes helping me, obviously. But so that's the major revenue stream, and everything else I do is to supplement that. And 3 other revenue streams are my photography business, my leadership coaching, which is kind of a branch in its own, and general business consulting, right? And all 3 of them require each one of them requires different effort to kind of increase the volume. It seems that the consulting and the coaching somehow happen just from word of mouth, and they kind of fill my time and they bring in very good revenue. And I default to those, even though my real joy and enjoyment comes from photography. So I'm always in that zone of, do I give up something that seems to easily come my way and focus more on what gives me more joy, or do I dive in and say, forget the rest, I'm going to make this photography my main second income? And it's a tough one. It really is a tough one for me, because I'm at the stage of my life where I hate to say, but I don't have a lot of ambition in terms of I want to, accumulate money and wealth and so on. It's just about enjoying what I do nowadays, and I just seem to be stuck in that zone of easy versus harder work in terms of increasing my photography business. I'd like to focus on my photography, but it seems to come a little bit more. It's more difficult for me to do that than the word of mouth that comes with the coaching and the consulting.
It doesn't.
I think you. Oh, sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
Go right ahead.
I was just going to say, I think you bring up an interesting point in saying that, like, I think that there's something to be said for the easy versus hard, and then also the stages of life, because I just turned 46 and I'm right there with you. I'm ready to be done with a lot of the hustle portion of it, and fortunately in a place where I can do that. But also, like, when you're there, I think it's something that we have to consider, where you don't, like, especially people who have been in business and have been making things happen for their whole lives, you're in the mentality of, I have to continue to go, but there's something to be said for, you've earned the ability to chill out too, and just enjoy and do the thing that you want to do, versus trying to make it all about, I bought all this equipment, I did all these things, I have this studio, how much money is it going to return? If its return is just the joy of doing the thing, then also, I would hate to think that we discount that and move beyond that as well. You know, if you've earned the ability to be that way, then also kudos for you, because now your business might bring in a little income, but it is also just you're getting the opportunity to live your passion too.
No, absolutely. I appreciate how you described it. It's exactly how it is, and you know, nevertheless, there is still that thought in deep inside me, deep in my brain about doing more, and it's not necessarily because of the money. I mean, it's just doing more, and the money will come type of thing. And as I said, I just seem to be happily stuck in that area. But sometimes I wonder how much you know, I keep saying how much of an excuse that is. But listening to you talk, I think it validates how I feel. It helps me hide behind my excuses, my friend.
I don't see you as being stuck at all. I see you just sitting there in what you enjoy. And if you can do that and make a little bit of money, I have no issue with that, right? There's no right or wrong in any of this. And so hearing you say you're stuck, you're not stuck. You're sitting there in your throne of joy and just watching everything that you've built kind of, you know, help you with the rest of your life. I have no issue with that at all. I think you're doing all the right moves, Bassam. You know, there was one question that came in, everyone, from Jason in the Facebook group, and he had mentioned, speaking of safety nets, what's a better strategy? And we can tie this into revenue streams, but what's a better strategy, saving money or making more money? So as you're
investing money.
So I don't know if you have an opinion on this, Nicole, but saving money or making more money. Go ahead. So, I'd love to hear what you say.
Spending money.
Spending money.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's Bassam is right. Like when you save money and you're saving, oh my goodness, my dog just feels like he needs to fight the whole world. Stop it. When your money is just sitting in your bank account, it's the amount at which it appreciates is nothing. It's just not worthwhile at all. But when you are investing money, then the money goes off and hopefully works for you while you continue to make other money. So the answer is both making more money and then also investing your money. And the only way that you do that is by spending it. And I'm using spend loosely because there's that opportunity that you may lose some, right? Like that is just kind of a part of the investment process. But you can invest in things that are physical, like David's studio space, counting on the fact that property values will increase over time, et cetera, et cetera. And then there is also investment in other companies or in index funds or whatever else you're going to do. So that make the money. Our current philosophy is essentially have enough in the bank saved up so that we can cover our expenses if something goes wrong, right? So we've got 3 months or something like that, whatever it is that you have. The rest of the money then goes into investments. And then you're always looking for ways to continue to increase your cash flow with these secondary revenue streams. So that's ours, but I'm completely interested to hear from David and Bassam as well, what you guys think about that question.
Well, I'm no financial advisor, but I got some financial advice back in, 30 years ago now that has worked really well for me. And the two pieces I was told was by, by a man who is now super wealthy, but he told me to always invest in cosmetics, alcohol companies, and drug pharmaceutical companies. And I have stuck to that philosophy because he's like, when people are sad, they put on makeup. When people are happy, they put on makeup. People are sad, they drink. When people are happy, they drink. And the same thing goes for drugs. It sounds so stupid, but it's worked really well for me. I also was told a little analogy about, a table that only has 3 legs back in the day. You have to have savings, you have to have investments, you need to have insurance. Without those 3 things, that whole plateau will collapse. And I have also lived by that philosophy. So I definitely think that there are tricks or prongs or you know, and you're right. When you're investing, you should think of it more as spending. You shouldn't be throwing any money in that you're not willing to lose, because like the market right now is a disaster. There's money going all over the place. Some of us are crying, but you have to be prepared for those. But you also absolutely need to have that savings nest egg to cover stuff should jobs, disabilities, anything like that happen. So again, I think it's like everything else. It's diversifying. It's not keeping all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, and I know that even you were just talking about the stock market. There are ways to capitalize on the down market as well and make some opportunities there. If you've never invested before, this might be, and again, not a financial advisor, clearly, but it might be a good time to start dabbling in things as prices are low, and then you ride it out for the long term. One of my financial advisors and I get along really, really well because we have a very long-term view of not only what I'm doing now, but the investments that I've made. And, watching it day to day is great for day traders. But for the muggles, for the rest of us that are looking at building wealth over a long period of time, just understand that it does take time and that the trend has always been upwards and to the right. So I think, if you have the right risk tolerance, then there's really nothing you can't do. And I think the risk is, personal to each person, right? So it's individual to each person, where you may feel like starting a second business is no risk at all, but you may feel like investing in the stock market is. Everybody's got a different level of that. And I like what Nicole was saying is that once you have expenses covered, then you look at investments and then you move on from there. So my approach to the saving money or making more money question is in agreement with both of you, which is spend more money, build wealth over time. But saving money is great for your own personal security in the short term, but it's not going to do anything for you long term because it's not appreciating in any way. But that's my Luddite view of money management. So yeah, I agree with both of you. I think you got to spend it to make it.
Yeah, I'm in no position to give financial advice either. I think we all have our situations. The only thing I would say is that I've always seen money as fluid. I've always been fortunate to have a good job and so on. But I've always seen money as fluid. That if I spend it, if I invest it, no matter what I do with it, and it's not going to disappear. Somehow I have the confidence to keep earning money, right? So that's how my approach was. But in no way would I say I was good in terms of managing the money and the investments and so on. The other thing I want to say, it's extremely important to have the right financial planner if you're not doing it yourself. At this stage in my life, we just switched financial planners. We've had somebody for many, many, many years, and it was basically just simply money sitting there, earning, growing, investing, potentially being invested well by this gentleman. But we just switched to somebody who is kind of sees the bigger picture, that's helping us put things in perspective at the age we are, and look at aspects of an estate and what does it mean, and tax implications. A lot more, I guess, get your ducks in a row in terms of how the money is structured and how things are structured, so that the impact of whatever life event happens can be at least as positive for everybody, right? So I think it's important to very early in life, which we didn't really do, to actually look at structuring that whole money situation better, and not just think of a linear, buy and sell and make money, or invest and so on. So many things you can do very, very early on. Sorry, why am I repeating words twice? But you can do things early on to I guess have a better structure around how you manage money.
Ooh, that was all, excuse me, that was a lot of really good stuff. So obviously, just to repeat what has already been said, none of us are financial advisors. We're just sharing our own thoughts and experiences with what works for us. So keeping that in mind, you definitely want to look at your savings and investments not as secondary income streams, right? Because your investments will hopefully be making you additional money. But for those to be really functional, you don't just want to take them out. That's not something you want to be drawing from all the time. Just like your savings isn't something you want to be drawing from all the time. That is something that you put in for hopefully a long term, not just retirement, but if you have a huge expense come up and you do need to liquidate some of your assets, so you can grab that income. But it's not the kind of thing where you're just, continuing to take and use. Hopefully that's where the actual income, the money that you're continuing to earn, comes in, which is why having those additional assets is such a good move. And diversifying your income streams can be so super helpful to us as artists. I want to talk about that a little bit. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to add, I've actually had this conversation probably 3 or 4 times with 3 or 4 different people in the past 2 days. And some of the things, and from all different backgrounds, corporate, yoga, photography, right? And so just some of the ideas that I've tossed around to them have all centered around the fact that you have certain skills that you're not utilizing for money, right? And so you have things that you're capable of doing, but why not attempt to see if those will create revenue streams? For example, if you have a great background in corporate and you know how to do organization and spreadsheets and PowerPoints and keynotes and maybe a little bit of social media, why not think about offering some virtual assistant services, charging $30 an hour to see if you can help people organize their lives? God knows there's a lot of people out there that need it. So if you have the abilities to offer some of your skills to other people that don't have those same skills, that could be a really lucrative way of doing things. Offer 3 to 5 hours per week per client. And now as things start to grow and you raise those rates, you're now making a significant amount of income from doing things that are not hard for you to do. If you're a photographer and aren't shooting all the time, but know how to retouch, offer retouching services. If you're a yoga instructor and can't reach a lot of students locally, why not try doing some courses online or doing some live streams and, charging nominally for that behind a paywall? There's a lot of things that you can do in the downtime. So you don't have to just sit around going, oh, I wonder where I can find a job. The gig economy has kind of changed all that. If you go on Fiverr or Upwork, you can find people looking for all sorts of stuff. I know that I'm looking more into narration and voiceover work and figuring out how I can do that and fit that into my schedule. There's always been marketing consulting. There's always been video editing and, different types of video services that I can provide. There's mentoring, right? I'm always looking at different ways that the skills that I have that I relatively take for granted based on a career's worth of experience, why not offer those back up and help people not have to jump through all the hoops to get their businesses going? How can I help with that? So I think there are, if you start to look at what you do and how you do it, and your workflows and your talents, and how can you monetize those, it might be able to create some revenue streams for you that are not difficult to get started. And all it takes is a little bit of time to market it and put yourself out there and just let people know. But no one's going to know unless you do put it out there. So there's no guarantee that it's going to make you millions of dollars. But if you can make an extra $1,000 or $1,500 a month for, 30 hours of work a month, why not do that, right? That's real money coming in. So I think there's a lot of ways to think about revenue streams rather than it just being the one job that we know we have. How can we utilize some of the soft skills and turn that into money? So yeah, the more I look and hear about what people need, I may become a virtual assistant because Lord knows they're raking it in. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to go about this. And it just takes a little bit of thinking differently about what skills you have to really turn that into something.
Yeah, I love that, and I wanna actually explain a little bit about what that might look like, just from what I'm beginning to set up on my own and see if this happens to resonate with anybody. But before I do that, Bobby mentioned that diversifying your client base. So sometimes taking the skill that you already have, that you're already doing, and adding more folks to that can be a way to look at that as well. And we've heard from some people who, they shoot both seniors and weddings, and then they do personal branding, and they're doing many things, and it's all still photography. So making sure that you consider that as an option as well. But I want to run down this kind of weird list and what the workflow looks like, just to give an example of ways that you can monetize what you're already doing. So, as most of you know, I'm also a crafter. I like to make things, and often I will make things for photo shoots. So, I may make a dress or a crown or a set of armor or whatever it is. It could be anything from a whole lot of stuff to just a little bit of stuff. But I started filming the entire process of coming up with the idea, sketching things out, making the craft. So I was, filming them with a little Sony camera set on a tripod near my workstation so that you can watch the process of me making things. Setting up the shoot, doing the actual shoot itself, and then doing a voiceover for everything. So it's what I was already doing, but it does increase the amount of time I have to spend, not by a super amount, just I have to set everything up and make sure that it's recording. But I add that to the workflow that I'm already doing. Now I have videos where photographers, I have not done anything with them yet, but I have the videos where photographers will be able to learn how they can craft things themselves so that they don't always have to work with other artists. This being a caveat, hire other artists when you can, it's amazing. But if you can't, these are ways that photographers can create for themselves, right? Then the shoot also. So these things could be purchased separately as a photographer's guide to making crowns or whatever. Or it could be purchased as a whole for a different price where it's the entire process that you get, including the retouching and everything. So each piece could potentially be sold separately. Each piece then could go as part of a whole. For my author business, for my publishing, I have a members area on my website where people can essentially, I'm serializing a current novel that I'm writing so they can read it as I write it. Every time a new chapter is done, it goes into that member area so folks can go and read that. And it's right now, it's not behind a paywall because I'm collecting email addresses from it. But once I have started to build up a sturdy base of people, those folks will be grandfathered in, and then that will go behind a paywall. So anybody else who wants access to that will have to pay a little bit per month. And I'll have other things in there as well, like I may read a chapter and discuss that chapter, and the video goes in there so folks get to learn a little bit more about my process and the characters and all those kinds of things. So I'm taking what I'm already doing and I'm asking myself, is the information that I have learned over however many years of photography and crafting, is that information valuable enough that it would help somebody else? And if it is, then that means it's worth some money. So you can take a look at what you're already doing and ask yourself, like Matt said, you already have some soft skills. So if you're both a photographer and you have a history in finance, well, shoot, then you're the perfect person to help advise other photographers about their finances. If you are a photographer and a writer, then you're the perfect person to advise other photographers on great techniques for blogs. If you are both a photographer and a crafter, then you are the perfect person to also help other photographers be able to craft things for their photo shoots. So, what are you already doing? What skills do you have? Is there a way that you can incorporate that process into your workflow in such a way that it is monetizable and doesn't wear you out or force you to begin an entirely new business from scratch? Just add to what you're already doing, as Bobby mentioned. So, I just wanted to run through that really quickly because the process has been relatively painless for me so far. I've had some things going on where I haven't been able to take advantage of doing that for photography yet. For the publishing side, sorry, my dog is trying to fight with his sister. I haven't been able to take advantage of that for the photography side yet, but I have been doing it for the publishing side, and relatively easy, pretty simple, pretty good results so far. So that would be, I think, one of my big takes for people just to look at and see if that's something that might work for you.
You know, it's one of the things that happened to me when I first started in photography, right? In the outdoor industry. I was just taking pictures, going to the range, going on hikes, doing stuff in the outdoors, taking pictures, started putting them on social media, right? And that's kind of what launched my career as a photographer. Is I started getting hired for that. Then, as I shot more commercial work, people started to look at me as a certain subject matter expert in some of these products. From that, I was able to start writing for magazines, doing more magazine work, doing testing and evaluation for companies, doing sponsored ads on certain websites, and translating that passion for what I did into money, and it didn't feel like work. And this kind of goes back to what Bassam was saying, is that if you're happy doing it, it doesn't necessarily feel like work, but it is the opportunity to bring some more revenue. So I think as you just put yourself out there, I love doing this, I love crafting, I love shooting, I love doing anything, people will find that in you and come to you and gravitate towards that passion. At least that's what I've found. Then, if you can turn around and find a way to potentially make some revenue off of it, why wouldn't you? There's a lot of reasons maybe why you wouldn't. Maybe you just don't feel morally or ethically obliged to do anything like that. But if there's the opportunity to translate that into a portion of your business, I find it to be something that's really appealing. Talking, podcasting, voiceover work, right? My mouth runs nonstop. So why wouldn't I try to turn that into something? So I think there's a lot of opportunities will present themselves. You just step back from the day to day just a little bit and look at what you love to do, how you're doing it, and is that something that you could package up and teach to other people or help do for other people? People will pay for these services just to make their own life more convenient. What can you do to provide other people convenience? How can you serve them? And then, you set your rates accordingly.
For sure. I want to ask the audience today as well. If anybody has any questions, would love to have you raise your hand and come up so we can get to those. Jen has had her hand up. I don't know if that was an accident, Jen, or not, but I'm grabbing you anyway, just to see. But if you have, okay, Jen can't join, so it must have been an accident early on. If you have any questions related to this, now would definitely be the time to ask them so that we can get to those things. But we've got about 10 minutes left before the end of the hour. And I think we've covered a lot of ground so far on just not only the importance of having a diversified income because of everything that we've talked about, changes in the market, changes in what you're capable of in your personal life, all of that stuff. But then also the importance of diversifying your assets. So the money that you're saving, the money that you are spending, where that's going, is that creating more money for you, or is that gone once you've spent it? And then your investments as well. And then in addition to that, it's important to recognize that no matter how you approach this, so even if you are trying to add things, add a different income that's already part of your workflow, right? Like I was mentioning, it's still going to require an investment of time from you. And it may require a minimum investment of money. So you may need to do something like make a Gumroad account if you're going to sell digital files, or increase your the capacity of your website if you're going to do that. You still do need to make sure that you are putting in the time and effort, which is an investment, right? Because anytime you are taking time away from your regular income to put towards something else, that is an investment of time, which affects your ability to make money. So that is an important consideration to make and to give it the due seriousness that it deserves. So make sure that you are thinking of it. Good grief, my dog. Make sure that you're thinking of it that way, and I mean approaching it properly. But yeah, that is an investment as well. So it is going to require time, and it is going to require some effort. It may require a little bit of money too. It's an important thing to think about, and then to really ask yourself, if it's a secondary thing, am I going to have the time to build this enough that it begins to run on its own, or is this going to hurt me? For many of us who are freelancers, we tend to have dead spots, times between jobs, and those are really fantastic times to be able to invest in building for yourself those diversified income streams. So just a few things to think about there. And I don't see any hands up. So
and I think to add to
Oh,
what you're saying, Nicole, and to bring in some other things like, just like Matt is saying that, offer your services. I heard you say, Nicole, that you've recorded a bunch of stuff, but you haven't done anything with it. I think as we're building this, you also have to be saying like, well, I filmed all this stuff. When am I going to have time to edit it? Maybe I'm not. So maybe I need to, in order to get this product out there that's going to help me diversify, maybe I need to reach out and hire another service to do these things. Because again, you're building, you need to be able to have all the tools in place to build with. You can't sell a product if the product doesn't exist. It's great that you filmed it. If it's not done, you can't do anything with it. If you don't have the time to do it, it's definitely 100% not going to make you any money. So, maybe it's time to offload some of those services to somebody else so that you can bring a product to market. Great idea. I love everything that you said you're doing, but got to get it out there. So I think we also have to be willing to invest in the idea to be able to bring it to market and have that built up library that people can jump into and do something with.
Oh, that's so important and absolutely true. Absolutely true, which is why we need to really look at our own situations. And if you are somebody who's like, I need to get this done, and so hiring somebody to be able to take this part on for me to finish this, I think everybody should probably be looking at themselves and asking themselves if they need to bring on help. It may be an upfront cost that you're not entirely sure if you want to handle, but the amount of free time that it gives you to increase your work capacity or your marketing is just enormous. So, I think everybody should be having a good look at that for themselves. But the only other option is if you're not willing to take it slow and make sure you take the time to do that, then you need to hire folks. But if you cannot hire anybody and you're needing to build that revenue stream, you also need to recognize that this is going to take time and investment on your part. So it may mean that for this month, you're not really going to have any weekends. And accepting that that's just going to be, I'm going to have a season where I'm investing a lot. That just might be what this season is. Say goodbye to your evening shows on Netflix. You're going to be putting in a little bit of extra work this month, all with the plan that once everything is finished, then you're going to be reaping the benefits of that investment. But if that's something you don't have time for, or you are not willing to give up that time in order to start to see some of those investments be finished and come to fruition, then you need to hire somebody. And for me, in my case, and you're absolutely right, David, I'm just recognizing that I'm going to be willing to take this slow and let it happen as it happens. And if I start to think that it's going to be wasted, then I probably will look at asking somebody to come and finalize and do all of that stuff for me. But in the meantime, I'm okay that I can take that slow, but people have to be able to look at that for themselves and be honest with themselves about how much time or money they can potentially invest.
Yeah, just adding on to that, you talk about investing time and money and effort, and then in the same breath you said, I'm just going to take it easy and see how things turn out and see where they go. And everybody's different, and I want to point out to the importance of if you want to do this deliberately, if you want to diversify and you have ideas for whether it's revenue streams, whether it's investments, whether it's type of work that you do, proper planning and taking the time to look at your business and set objectives and look at what investments are required in terms of time and effort. We had an episode or two where we talked about planning your business and looking 1 year ahead and making a plan for a year or 2 or 3. This is obviously standard practice in any business, doing a strategic plan and deciding on where we want to grow, how we want to grow, what are the expectations and target for growth. So it's important to spend that time up front to plan and set, realistic targets of what you want to do. So if you're diversifying into something and have the expectations that's going to be 50% of your income in a year, well, it may be a different different way to get there than if you're just going to feel it out and hope to get 5%, of your income in a year. So again, proper, I don't want to call it strategic planning, but that's the only word that comes. But forward planning of what you want to do will definitely help to keep you on track and not set up expectations that, with ignorance of what it takes in terms of either investment or effort, whether it's time or money.
Yeah, that's really important to some. And, to clarify, like the reason in that one area I can kind of take that slow and get to it as I get to it is because I have other areas where I am investing my time and money more seriously. And so with the, sharing of the behind the scenes and photo shoots and crafting and things like that, I have the time I have decided to allow that to be something I slowly build over time because so much of my time and effort is being invested in other places. But that's exactly why we have to look and say, is this an income stream that I need? And if I don't have the time, then do I have the money to have somebody else do this? How does that look in the next year, in the next 2 years? I mean, all of that stuff, so important to think about.
Yeah, I wasn't any way criticizing what you do. I was actually agreeing that there's we all have our approach. I mean, I'm just like you. I'm at a stage where I just let things go and see how they turn out and do them and so on. All I'm saying is that there's many ways to approach it, and if you're serious about it and you want to be deliberate about it, proper planning up front is key.
For sure. I just wanted to clarify to make sure, because I didn't want to confuse anybody thinking that I was speaking out of both sides of my mouth, right? Like you might need to really give up some time, but I'm not going to give up some time. It's because I'm already giving it up in other areas. So yeah, I just wanted to, once you brought that up, I realized I just needed to clarify that point so that I wasn't hopefully confusing anybody. That's all. All right, we are coming up on the end of the hour. So any final thoughts to share about this idea of a diversified income and some strategies or things we need to be considering?
I think my final thought is you're not going to make any more money if you don't try, right? If you're feeling like you want to diversify a little bit and you want to create some new streams of income, then you can't just sit there and go, I should probably do this. I should probably do this. Just do it. Just put it out there. See what happens. See what you succeed at. See what you fail at, where your strengths and weaknesses are. You don't have to invest a lot of your own money to get started, unless you're trying to start a massive new business. But for these smaller things, these passive income sources, or maybe side hustles, or maybe a tangent to what you're already doing, it doesn't have to take a lot. Just be structured about it and go forth and see what happens. You're not going to hit the pitches you don't swing at, right? So you might as well just start somewhere. And if it starts to pan out and starts to gain some momentum, then you look at other ways to grow it. But you're not going to start unless you start. So get out there.
Nothing changes if nothing changes.
That's exactly it.
Yep. Stop
And I think
start doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cool thing to think about, having just basically come out of COVID, is like, what I don't think we should lose that mentality of, what if everything is shut down. I think we all got super creative during that time. So like, why would we lose that creativity? Why would we lose that drive? Why would we lose that energy of, that energy was really driven by fear because, well, the world shut down and all these things. But, a lot of people got really creative and did a lot of things related to trying to make changes to keep their business moving. So why would we lose that ideology of we need to do something different, or what else is out there? I think if we all could keep that same creative drive and just switch it from coming to fear to opportunity as its motivational source, we're going to see that so many things are available for us.
Yeah, David, I think, the creativity that we saw during the downturn has really given people an opportunity to look at what they're doing completely differently and, get back to what Bassam was saying at the beginning. Where's the joy coming from, right? Am I happy doing this? Can I create happiness? Can I get out of my cubicle and maybe make something else happen? I think there's an infinite amount of non-traditional ways to make income these days, especially now. So if this has been kind of something scratching in the back of your brain, start to look at it. How can you make this happen? It doesn't have to happen tomorrow, but why not start investigating the ways that you can, diversify just a little bit? And there's no end to the creativity out there. I watch people go into Family Dollar, buy stuff off the wall, and then resell it on Amazon. And you do that and you flip it over and over and over. And now you're starting to make an income. Really a lot of creative ways out there to do this stuff with the tools that we have in front of us every single day.
Totally agree. Let's not lose that. Let's keep that moving. Keep it going. Be creative. I mean, that's what our job is to be creative. So, man, we can think our way through just about anything with our creative brains. All right. So, we have come to the end of the hour today, looking at some ways we can think about diversifying our income stream or creating new revenue streams that can help us get through tough times or increase our earning capacity, whatever it is. But no matter what you are doing, if you are a photographer or a painter or a filmmaker or whatever, you need to be thinking about this for yourself, really analyzing your situation, what you're capable of, your workflow, and asking yourself what you want. And I think that was a really interesting part of the conversation earlier, between Matt and Bassam, because I may just make enough that I'm comfortable, and I like that. And I'm putting my money away for retirement, and I'm living within my means, and I have time for the people that I care about, and that's all I want. I'm making what I want, and I'm covering my bills, and I'm putting some away, and I am good. Then you're good, right? You need to definitely be thinking about that for yourself, because for some of us, having a lot of free time to pursue additional passions is more important than having a crap ton of extra money in the bank. Of course, we should all have enough in there to cover emergencies and to cover our bills. And we should have, we should be trying to make sure that we're safe so that any small hiccup in the economy doesn't completely destroy us. But not everybody feels the need to build up a huge amount of wealth, and that is okay. We need to really understand that about ourselves, because if you are one of those people, but you think that's what you're supposed to be doing, and you go about your business just working yourself into the ground and burning yourself out, thinking this is what I'm supposed to do, and you are unhappy, then nobody wants to live that life, right? So making sure that we understand ourselves and our motivation and what we want our lives to look like, and then asking ourselves, is a diversified income stream or these additional revenue streams, is this going to get me closer to the life I want to live, or the future that I want to have? Am I willing to sacrifice a little bit now for the future that I'm picturing in my head? These are all questions we need to be asking ourselves. And then once we've answered those questions, making sure that we're building a proper scaffolding or a proper framework for those things, asking ourselves, is there ways that I can take what I already know, the skill sets that I have, the workflow that I already have? Is there ways I can take these things and monetize them? How do I take what I already know and serve either my current client base in new ways, or how do I take what I already have and add a new client base to my services? And then look at how you can do those. And can you do them by yourself, or do you need help? Do you need to bring on an assistant to help get things off the ground? Do you have the knowledge base that it takes to be able to build this thing? And if not, are you willing to take it slow so you can build that knowledge base on your own? Or do you need to get somebody to come in and help you? All of these are things to be thinking about. But whatever it is, make sure that you have that conversation with yourself, because we cannot control the economy. We can't even control what happens within our own particular discipline. All we can do is really look at ourselves and ask those questions and see if we can come up with some good answers. And we are creative. So we should be able to do that. All right. That is it for this week. We are hanging out now on Mondays and Fridays. Remember, same time, just whittled down to Mondays and Fridays. So we hope you'll continue joining us there. You can also participate in the April. Oh, it is May. I'm sorry. I said April challenge so many times last month that I feel like it's burned into my soul. We are participating in the May challenge, which is self-portraits. So whatever medium you choose to work in and however you want to look at that, we want you to create a self-portrait, head into the Facebook group, share that in the comment section of the pinned post. You'll see that it says May challenge there. And if you feel like any additional information is needed, make sure you share it, and then go and like or heart and engage with those images you really feel connected with. And at the end of the month, the 5 images that have the most likes or hearts will go in the final live stream on the 4th Thursday of the month, where we will use our visual literacy skills to break down what those artists did, what art techniques did they use to make us feel so much, and the image we feel the most connected to will then go on to be the banner image for the Facebook group and page, and will also result in an interview with Matt Stagliano for the Artist Forge podcast, and also a featured blog post showcasing your work, having some interesting Q&A, all that kind of stuff. We just want to, support you and tell everybody how amazing you are. So we hope you will participate in that. And then, of course, there is the artistforge.com, where there are articles and podcasts going up regularly filled with great information about being an artist and thinking like an artist and all the good stuff that goes into this career that we love so much. So we hope you will join us there. In the meantime, go have a great weekend, make something amazing, and we will see everybody Monday morning at 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. That is 6 a.m. for the West Coast and 9 a.m. for the East Coast. Afternoon for our friends overseas. Have a great one, everybody. Bye.